calming for that. He also has a little bit of seasonal allergies, which is really common in the summer. As you can see, his eyes are a little red. They might be a little itchy. There's a lot of pollen in the environment, so acupuncture can help clear that up. He also had a slip disc a few months ago, and he's recovered really well from that. But acupuncture can be used to kind of strengthen the spinal column and prevent another injury and another episode of intervertebral disc disease. Intervertebral disc disease can be really serious and require surgery, so we certainly want to avoid that at all costs. So acupuncture needles are really, really tiny. The blue just helps me to find them if a dog has really long hair. And I like to start up by his head with a calming point. That's called Dafeng Men. Some people also like to call it the unicorn point because of its location. As you can see, Royce didn't seem to care too much about that. This is his first time having acupuncture. So before his treatment, Jamie and I sat and discussed his history, and he had a complete Eastern and Western medical exam.
Taking it like a champ. How often do you recommend people do acupuncture with their dogs?
It varies depending on what's being treated. In an acute situation, like if Royce was suffering from an episode of intervertebral disc disease, I might recommend doing it once a week. In a situation where things are very severe and there's paralysis, I may even recommend acupuncture on a daily basis. And for the most part, starting out every other week or every month or kind of on an as-needed basis, depending on the condition being treated, usually works really well. Sometimes I'll recommend combining acupuncture with Chinese herbs, and then visits can be spaced out even further apart. As you can see, Royce has 4 needles in, and he seems to already be feeling pretty zen and relaxed. People ask me all the time if I give my patients any sedatives or if the needles are coated with any sedating agent, and no, the needles are purely just stainless steel needles, and these points over here on his head are purely for calming and relaxation. And then we're going to move on to some stronger points. Good boy. And he's doing great, especially for his first session. After acupuncture, dogs can resume all their usual favorite doggy activities: walks, eating, naps, whatever their usually scheduled day is. Some patients may be a little sleepy following the session. Hi. Good boy.
He's doing so well.
So this is the most common acupuncture technique. It's called dry needling. And what we do is leave the dry needles in for a little bit. There are other kinds of acupuncture that I use in different situations. One is called aqua acupuncture, where I actually inject a substance such as dilute B12 over the points to kind of leave a longer lasting acupressure. Electrical acupuncture, where I put a current through the needles, or even moxibustion, which is when you heat the needles up. Good.
Are there any points on dogs that tend to be more sensitive than others?
Some of the points near the feet and around the eyes tend to be very sensitive. So although we're treating his eyes, this is his first time, I'm doing some points that, although not right near his eyes, are also effective.
Would you say, so with the slip disc incidents, is that was lower back? Like you would have more sensitivity?
necessarily. The crazy thing about acupuncture is that there are points that are proximal or near to the areas of the body being treated, and there are other points that are distal or far from the area that can have an equally great effect. So, yes and no. What a good boy. Royce has 10 needles in already.
How many will you do for his first session?
We'll see how he does. I like to get around 10 to 15 needles in. What a good boy. Hi, you're very handsome. Good job. And for my short nosed breeds like Bulldogs, I always like to put a point or two in to help with their breathing, especially in the summer months, as sometimes with the hot weather it can be more difficult for them to get full oxygen capacity. And these are some long points right here on his chest. Good boy.
He's very observant.
There are some other dogs floating around here today, and I think they're distracting Royce from his zen feeling.
They're very zen, but must know what's going on with
Can you tell us about some of the benefits of acupuncture for dogs?
Sure, acupuncture has a lot of benefits. So the points correlate to areas of microcirculation and lymphatics, and there are a lot of free nerve endings and blood vessels by where those points are. So the short-term results are they're going to increase circulation and decrease inflammation. It also releases endorphins, and it's going to aid in healing and control inflammation. So there are a lot of really positive side effects from doing acupuncture. There are some more specific side effects for different treatments and different conditions being treated. I don't know if you can tell on camera, his eyes are slightly more watery and they do look a little clearer from when we first started. His tongue also is a little bit pinker from when we first started, which is a sign of circulation. In Chinese medicine, the tongue, color, and pulse provide a lot of information as to what's going on throughout the entire body. You're doing great, buddy.
So for someone like Royce's conditions, what would be an ideal situation for how often he should be coming for acupuncture?
Every dog reacts differently to acupuncture. Some dogs can have one session, and I love nothing more than when I get a phone call afterward. Those needles were magic. They're running around like a puppy. But especially for more chronic conditions, such as anxiety, it takes a few treatments. So if he seems to be doing well after just one session, I would say to space it out until he starts to not be doing quite as well. So maybe that's 2 weeks, maybe that's a month. And if he's combining it with Chinese herbs, the visit's going to be pushed out even further. Because you can see now that some of the distractions have been removed, and his qi, which is the Chinese word for energy, and blood is flowing throughout the channels. He's feeling pretty good and seems to be taking his little pokes all in stride.
About how long do you leave the needles in for?
I like to leave the needles in for a minimum of 10 minutes. Sometimes a bit longer, depending on if they are tolerating them. But just leaving the needles in longer doesn't necessarily correlate to a better treatment. It's about stimulating those points.
Is Royce normally this calm?
after like running around and sort of overwhelmed maybe, but this
Okay.
is pretty
Well, this unicorn point is a pretty powerful calming point. So these 3 points right here, if ever you're trying to calm down your dog, is a good area to pet. So that's a little at-home acupressure for those of you tuning in.
So for anyone just tuning in here, we're with Royce, the Frenchie, and he's having his first acupuncture session. Seems like he's doing really well with it. to be okay with it. It's hoping to help him with some anxiety. He had a slipped disc and allergies. Am I missing anything?
I think that about covers it for today. And those are 3 conditions that I see very, very commonly in a lot of my patients. Some of the other things that I commonly treat with acupuncture are geriatric patients, kind of some of the aches and pains and arthritis that comes with being older, or dogs undergoing treatment for cancer to help mitigate some of the side effects of chemotherapy, or for patients that decide they don't want to undergo Western treatment.
All right, well, thank you so much. We're going to let Royce chill a little bit longer before he gets his needles taken out. Thanks, guys. Say bye.